ほら、ルフィ、今一緒に海賊になる仲間を探してるんだ。
Hello guys, welcome to my channel The Wandering Zoro, your go-to destination for anime-related content. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. In today's video, we're going to be diving into part 2 of the series. So be sure to stick around until the end, and let's get started. Death Arms Agency. I know a few people who had quirk quite similar to yours. Recovery Girl said, while looking at the two. Wait, what do you mean by that? Yagi asks the heroine as on the side others looked at her too. Exactly, what I mean, Tashinori. Recovery stated as she wrote few more things in the file. As you know that we usually classify quirks in 3 categories. There are mutant-type quirks, transformation-type quirks, and emitter-type quirks, with emitter-type being the most common quirk type of all. Others nodded their heads for that. Yes, among the emitter-type there is another one, which is very rare, but very dangerous and quite strong, quirk. We called it life energy quirks. She paused as the others waited for her to continue what she was talking about. These are very rare cases, but it occurs. But the only problem with this quirk is not that it is strong. The major problem with this quirk is that it has serious backlash, which sometimes results in the death of the quirk user and sometimes people around them, and this is the worst-case scenario. The audience surrounding her widened their eyes. The best case, you will be out of action for a long time. Now about the quirk. As the name suggested, this quirk is derived from the life energy, or in simple terms, energy that body needs for survival. Now, as I told you, this quirk is quite a strong quirk, and it's because of what you could use this quirk for. Basically, a person having this quirk can do almost anything and perform anything, and also using this quirk becomes easier over time, but the risk of one overusing this quirk will always remain there. Others looked at her with disbelief. I know it is quite surprising, but that's not the thing we should worry about. Right now, what we need to worry about is how you are going to use this quirk and control it without any problem. For that, Mr. Tashinori will be helping you along with any of these 3 heroes. Now the heroes were looking at her in confusion. Wait, what do you mean by we will be helping him in using his quirk? Mount Lady asks her. It's exactly as I said. Recovery Girl said as she started packing her things. The quirk is quite dangerous and he needs to learn control it. Now the problem is that the person I know that has this type of quirk is not here as of now. Even if I called him, he won't be here for a few more weeks. And even then it is better if someone is overlooking what you are foeing with your quirk so that you don't accidentally unalive yourself. And keeping in mind that you want to enter U.A, well, you only have 10 months to prepare for that. Izuku grimaced at her wording because she was right. He didn't know how to use this quirk, and the person inside his head told him he won't help him if he don't activate it without the voice help. Tashinori, figure out a timetable and hand it to these 3 too. I want all the reports and breakthrough you guys will make while he is learning and practicing with his quirk. Recovery Girl said as she picked up her satchel with the rest of her belongings. This is the first time that I would get to record a quirk like this, so I want everything you guys figure out about his quirk. Izuku, on the other hand, asked her something. Wait, but you said you knew about these types of quirks? Izuku asks. I said I know someone that has a quirk similar to you. Recovery Girl spoke from where she now was standing and putting her things back. And the reason I even knew as much as I know is because I happened upon him by accident, and he has a certain fear of doctors and syringes, making it difficult for us in general to know about this. Another person is a full-blown villain and another is dead because she used every last bit of her energy, so I don't know as much as I would like to know about this quirk, and I gotta do this from the beginning. When she said the last part, she let out a giggle, which didn't sit well with the others. But I still don't know, why do we have to be there? Mount Lady asks. Yes, I would like to know about that too. Yagi pitches in. Because I know you, Tashinori. Recovery Girl stated factly, you will forget something that you would think was unimportant and will ignore it, or you will try to keep to yourself. I asked the other 3 so that not only you can report things to me for proper documentation, but also that if any bad things happen to him, he will have a backup. Yagi don't know what to do except for running to hospital when someone faints in front of him. As she said this, Yagi made face showing his discomfort of having to train Izuku while being surrounded by others, which means he could not talk about one for all freely. What are you waiting for? Recovery Girl called out to the small form of the All Might tell them the time and place for them for his training. Oh yes, sure. With that, he took a pen and paper and wrote down the time and place for them to be there. I want you guys to be at Dogba Beach at 5:30 in the morning. He handed Death Arms the paper with the timing and location and turned to Izuku, knowing that he had heard the time. Now, let's go, Yagi said as they stood up to leave the place. If remember correctly, your mother has asked for you before the sundown. I will also show you the place where you are going to train. With that, the three exited the building as Yagi went towards the direction of the beach. As they neared the beach, Yagi got out of the car followed by Izuku and Recovery Girl. Young Midoriya, Yagi called out as he stood in front of the beach. This is the place where I am going to train you. Izuku, on the other hand, looked behind him, Recovery Girl standing beside him. That's awesome, All Might. Izuku started as he kept looking behind him and then looked back at All Might. But how are we going to train here? He asks as behind All Might there wasn't a beach. No, even if the name said it was Dogba Beach, it wasn't. It was a dump yard. Near the sea, he could see several broke things there, from broke TV to a freaking truck to big refrigerator. That's the thing, young Midoriya. All Might spoke up as he looked at the young aspiring hero. Your training will also include your first task on your way to become hero. He spoke as he began to walk down the dump yard. What do you mean, All Might? Izuku asks again. Well, can you tell me what do you know about this particular beach, young Midoriya? Yagi asks Izuku, who was now following him down towards the beach. Well, I heard that this beach was once very beautiful and used to be main attraction of tourists, but the tides brought in several things from the sea, dumping it over the beach. He then paused as he looked at his surrounding, which now had a lot of trash and garbage. Also, the people, after seeing the dump, started throwing their garbage here, and because the tides brought in a new load every time it comes, it was nearly impossible for the culprits to be caught. You're right about that, young Midoriya, Yagi said as he stood near the edge of the beach looking at the ocean. This place has one of the best views in the entire city. But because of all this dump, it is nearly impossible for the view to be seen. He then paused for a moment as he looked at the teen. You know, young Midoriya, in the old times, being a hero was not about flashy costumes. No, it was all about helping the community. As he said this, Yagi transformed into the hero form of All Might. Beside him, Izuku took the information to his heart. And as such, you will clean this beach as a part of your training. When you do, you will be ready for 1-4. Oh, whoa, wait a minute, Izuku said as he rose his hands up. I thought you said I am worthy of your quirk. Being ready and being worthy are two different things, young Midoriya, All Might said as he looked at the teen. If I were to give you 1-for-all as you are now, you will pop up like a balloon with a lot of air. For you to gain this, you have to complete this training. Oh God, Izuku thought as he looked around the beach, another challenge for me to achieve. But he then steeled his expression, mind firm, ready for anything that would be thrown at him. He would become #1 hero. Now let's move. We are already a bit behind schedule, All Might said as he turned back into his small form. Izuku went with him so that both could head off to his home and enjoy the party. Midoriya residence. In the night. Well, the party wasn't what he was expecting. Oh, it was awesome. His mother made katsudon, which is his favorite. All Might, Recovery Girl, and Detective Nomesa didn't join in it because of their works. His mother persuaded them, but they refused the offer because of the work they had. Detective Nomesa had to work on the reports and make a case that they would need against the hospital and the doctor. Recovery Girl had to head back to UA because of her work there, and All Might, while he is superhero, he went to do the superhero work. The part was in full blast. He was actually surprised to see Kachin at his home in casual clothing for the party. He even got to talk with his dad as he congratulated him about his quirk and told him to train so that he could be a great hero. He also told him that his contract in his old place would end eventually, so there were chances that he would be back sometime between his school year, so he was happy about that. So he got everything he wanted. He got to meet All Might. He had his quirk, which came very late, and his father is coming back after 5 years since his current contract was about to end. What surprised him was that some of his classmates sent him gifts and also get well cards, which he wouldn't have gotten before. Well, there was thank you cats for saving Katsumi too, which if was read by her, she would have killed that person. But that was not on his mind. What really was on his mind was what happened with Kachin after the party when she was alone with him. Izuku and Katsumi stood opposite of each other discussing out of the residence. There was some shouting going on between the two. Both were trying to put their points down. Why don't you stop with your dream, Deku? Katsumi yelled at him. You will just get in the way. What do you mean by that, Kachin? Izuku asks timidly, a bit afraid that she would use her quirk on him, but gained a bit confidence as he started speaking again. I finally have quirk. Now I can be hero like I dreamed about. And what does your quirk do? Katsumi shot back, it can't be as good as my quirk. Do you even know how to use it? If you don't know, how can you even be a hero? She then turned around and walked inside. Face it, Deku, you are useless? Both of them cringed and grimaced when she said this, but Izuku was not able to see it on her face. And here he was now. As much as he didn't want to believe it, a part of him was afraid of that. Both All Might and the Voice have given him a challenge, and if he wants to learn about his quirk or All Might's quirk, he needs to complete these challenges. But a part of him was afraid that he won't be able to complete them. Izuku shook his head wildly, getting those thoughts out of his mind. No. Izuku spoke to himself as he looked around him. All Might has put his faith in me, and so did my mom and dad. I cannot fail them. With that, he decided to put his mind on something else. They said that the vigilantes were never caught using their quirks. Izuku thought to himself as he looked at the clock, which showed 8 o'clock. I still have time. Alright, let's find about the vigilantes then. With that, Izuku moved himself over to the computer and decided to check about the vigilantes. He booted up his PC as he typed the first thing that came to him. Hosu Vigilante. And it showed him number of vigilantes, a whole list of the vigilantes that were working in Hosu City, but not the one he was looking for. He remembers the name that were used when All Might and Recovery Girl talked about the vigilantes. He typed Nightmare Hosu Vigilante in the search bar. In Viola, he got what he was looking. There were no clear pictures of the person except something that was taken from the security camera footage. And the only thing visible in that was a black and blue suit with black cape of sorts. He then looked over at the articles. Nightmare, Truth or Fake Stunt. The Mystery of Hosu. Nightmare, Myth of Hosu. Nightmare of the Yakuza and Underworld Mafia. Facts about the nightmare. Being as curious as he was, he clicked on the last article, as he read some very interesting things about the vigilante. And he was happy to know that this article was only 2 years old. Some special facts about the legendary vigilante Nightmare. Recently, there have been several vigilantes that have been crawling up the holes. All of them are not bad, but seriously, some of them are just there for stunts. But then there are these vigilantes, total recluse, secret identity, whose secret is much more difficult to crack than hacking in the servers of Quirk Analysis Research and Technology Corporation, or QERT Corp, or I-Island. And those servers are some of the most advanced and highly protected servers in the world. We are going to talk about one of the vigilantes and someone who has been considered as a true hero by the people themselves. Here I am going to give you some facts about the famous vigilante of Hosu, Nightmare. By Hasley Lee. March 18th, 20XX. 1. Name of Nightmare. Contrary to the popular belief, his name is not something that he himself gave to the police. Oh, it was nothing like what people set it out to be. Originally, he was codenamed the Owl, and that was because of the mask he wore. But how come he was named the Nightmare? Your answer: he was named that by the criminals, or a criminal. He once caught a criminal who was beaten by him. Once asked by the police what he looked like, the answer they received: Nightmare. Apparently, the criminal asked him who was he, and the vigilante replied, I am your worst nightmare. And you could guess the name became popular. The vigilante that struck fear in the hearts of the criminals was termed by criminals themselves. You could even check out the video of the guy. 2. Nightmare no quirk use. Yes, apparently the dude never uses a quirk. Many have gone up against this man, but the dude basically fights villains, criminals, heroes, and police quirkless. Hell, the guy has took on Endeavor and Hawks 7 years ago. 2 of the top 10 heroes, and he took them on quirkless. Well, it was funny how he took them out, but seriously, he took them down amazingly. 3. Wide assortments of gadgets. Well, if the guy is not using quirks, he has to use something else. Well, guess what? He using gadgets and technology. Forget gadgets, the dude is said to have a very high-tech car that could do almost anything. Him with gadgets took on All Might, and he was able to evade All Might. While he is not the only one of the vigilantes that has evaded him, but seriously, he escaped All Might, the #1 hero, because of the gadgets he had. 4. Nightmare feats. Well, I've already told you that the dude has pulled some of the most amazing and incredible feats, like evading All Might and beating Endeavor and Hawks. But that wasn't the only feat that he is famous for. He took on 7 different pro heroes at the same time. But not only that, he took down 3 different crime syndicates, caught a dangerous serial, and several other criminals and Yakuza. Made a fool out of cops. Some of his most famous feats when helped during the Hoses City police fiasco by taking down the corrupt officer in the department. When he took down a dangerous serial bomber who had the Quirk ignite and was ready to blast heroes, convicts, hostages, and himself to kingdom come. What was the guy thinking? Don't ask, but Nightmare was able to thwart his plan. But his most famous feat is this: he beat Endeavor with a fire hydrant. He hosed him down, then knocked him out with a fire extinguisher. Who will forget that? 5. Allies in various forms. Everyone has allies. And in the same way, our renegade superhero has some too. His allies comes in various forms. From other vigilantes, mainly other reclusive vigilantes similar to him, most notable Dargo, Assassin, Dark Angle, and Black Spirit, to police officer. The dude has teamed up with the cops from time to time, and other heroes. He has teamed up with All Might and Endeavor, the same guy he beat with a fire hydrant. 6. Never broke a law. Now this is something that many people will fight with me on, but it's true. You might think I am one of those vigilantes lover or a person who supports vigilantism, but that is so not true. And if you think I am making this up, check up the Quirk Laws and Law book. If you have trouble finding them, I will provide you the exact page number. Open the Quirk Laws book and go to page 77. It is clearly written there, and I quote, "One must never use his/her quirk for vigilantism. If done, the person must be put on trial and will be considered as a vigilante and a criminal." And in all of the book, that is the only thing that has mentioned vigilantes, and there are no other law. And as I said before, he hasn't used his quirk in public except for the gadgets, so yes, he hasn't broken a law. 7. Expert martial artist. So you know how I told you that this guy was able to defeat a person without quirk? But still you need to have some sort of experience, right? So yeah, this guy does. I found a video of this guy in a building where he took down various criminals with different form of martial artist. I don't know how to throw a punch, but I know a friend of mine owns a dojo. If you wish to check it out, go to Kendo Dojo. So I asked him if he could tell me what style he was using. Turns out he was using various different style, some which are Muay Thai, Karate, Judo, something called Taijutsu, and Jiu-Jitsu. So yeah, he knows how to fight. 8. Good acrobat and reflexes. Now this may not seem like much, but this vigilante knows how to move from place to place. One of the major reasons he can easily fight and dodge and escape from the authorities, he knows how to do a flip and land properly. Regarding reflexes, many might say that it might be his quirk in action, but that reflexes of his is not inhumanely fast that it would be a quirk, but those are reflexes gained through training. Again, I had my friend check the video for me to write it down. Meaning he trained his butt off to get those reflexes. 9. Still a myth. Yes, this person and the others like him are still considered as a myth. We have proofs to say that these people exist, but no, these people are known for covering their track very well, and no one have came close to finding out about them. I've interviewed several pro heroes and heroes that are good at tracking other people, but they are able to avoid them completely. It is as if these people never even existed. They could be anywhere. I might have passed them by while grocery shopping, but I wouldn't know that they were them because nobody knows where they disappear to. And as such, to this day, these people are considered as myth. 10. True hero. So you guys might have read that I said that this guy and few others have been considered as true heroes. And no, I am not making this up. These guys have many times stuck their neck out for people like us. Like when he, knowing that there were police, criminals, heroes, and the serial bomber Ignite was there, yet he stormed that place, defeated everyone including the heroes, criminals, and Ignite himself, saving the building from going boom and saving hundreds of life. These action made them known as heroes by both government and the police, and heroes like All Might himself have stated that these vigilantes are true heroes. In these comes Nightmare, Drago, who is off the radar, Assassin, Dark Angel, Blackblade, Black Spirit, and Elite. These people have never taken the credit for the criminals they've caught and the lives they've saved, and are called as true heroes. This much only for this elusive vigilante. If you want to know more, you can check my other articles that I've written about them. You can click on the links that I've mentioned below. After that, Izuku ignored the rest of what was written in the article except for what was written in it. He then slunk back in his chair as he thought over everything that was written in the article itself. He then clicked on the search bar again to find about the other vigilantes, and he spent another hour reading as much as he could about the vigilantes that comes under the reclusive vigilantes. As he went to sleep, he was deep in thought, still thinking about what he read about those vigilantes and the videos that he watched. A month later. It has been a month since Izuku gained his quirk and learned about the vigilantes. He questioned about them to the heroes that come over to look over his training, and he got much information on them. He found out that 3 of them are female, while other are males. That they never had shown any sign of quirk use except for the gadgets that they have, and that they are still looking for them. A month has passed, and Izuku still haven't gotten anything on his quirk. He was able to clean up the beach, and he was sure that might be able to clean it completely before the deadline, but his own quirk. That was another news all over. Today was the weekend, which means he was supposed to train extra today, and his training was supposed to be looked over by small form of All Might, also known as Yagi Tashinori and Mount Lady. Well, more like Yagi only, because apparently Mount Lady is not a morning person. He quickly reached the beach where he trains usually, and saw for some reason Mount Lady was awake and was there with Death Arms too, and Yagi was talking to them about something. He quickly raced to where the 3 were. Mr. Yagi. Izuku called out to the small form of All Might good morning. He then turned towards Mount Lady and Death Arms and gave them the same greeting as he looked at them in confusion. Midoriya, my boy? Yagi started as he looked at the teen. I've some good news for you. Now this confused Izuku a bit. What could be the good news? He looked at Death Arms, who gave a grin, and Mount Lady, who was sulking over waking up this early in the morning. Really, what is the good news? He asks as he tilts his head to the side. You remember, Recovery Girl told us about a person she knew that has a quirk similar to yours. Izuku nodded his head. Yes. Well, she got in contact with him, and because he came here a week ago, and will be living here from now on, and she asked him if he could train you in using of your quirk, and he had agreed to that. Now that made Izuku smile in anticipation. He will finally get to learn how to use his quirk. Really? He asked while nearly jumping in enthusiasm. Yes. Yagi answers. He actually said he will be here today to help in your training. He is actually running a bit late from what I know. He sent me message that he would be here in few minutes. Isn't it a good news? Mount Lady on the other hand snorted. What's good about it? Mount Lady spoke sullenly as her precious sleep is interrupted again. I mean, do we even know how the guy looks, or what is his name? Oh yeah, we do. Yagi spoke up. His name is Hikari Murasum. It's nothing to be hyped up about. Mount Lady said again, and we still don't know what he looks like. He might be some old bald guy with white beard with cane that is bigger than his, wearing a turtle shell and shades, or another old man with a giant scroll over his back, wearing a giant headband, holding a notebook and pen, and weird paint over his face, wearing haori and wooden sandals. Or it could be combination of both, and he could be a pervert for all we know, who peeps on woman and writes a perverted novel by seeing those women. She grumbled as she continued with her rant, not knowing that another person had reached there and heard what she was talking about, and was smiling with amusement. That is one weird imagination you have, Ms. The person spoke up from his place, surprising the 4 people that were there. The pro-heroes took a firm, authoritative stance, whereas Izuku looked on with surprise at the stranger. Who are you? Death Arms asks the person that was there with them. Oh, yes, my introduction. The person now stood tall, showing a figure of a young man around 24-year-old, with dark brown, almost black hair that were in a mess and few spikes coming out here and there, and brown eyes. He was of average height and little taller than Mount Lady, but considering she could increase her height to 30 meters, we can ignore it. My name is Hikari Murasum. The person said, making the other widen their eyes at his name, and I was told by Recovery Girl to reach here and help someone by the name of Izuku Midoriya. Dogba Municipal Beach Park. My name is Hikari Murasum. Hikari spoke as he saw that others widened their eyes at his name, and he couldn't blame considering what others were thinking he would look like a few minutes prior. He had to say that the blonde lady with horns and mask has some wild imagination, or it could be that she is very cranky because she didn't get enough sleep as it is. If he was right, and according to Lady Chio, she is supposed to be a pro by the name of Mount Lady. The other was a tall, muscular man with short, spiky white hair. He was wearing a black and yellow caution headband and similar armbands. This is the pro-hero Death Arms. The other was a short, lanky man with blonde hair, wearing a plain white t-shirt and loose jogging pants. This is supposed to be Yagi Tashinori. On first glance, this person won't look like much, but he knew otherwise. This guy is the #1 pro-hero, All Might. How does he know that? You guys will learn about it later on. Hikari thought, and then grimaced, oh no, I am spending way too much of time with them. And I was told by Recovery Girl to reach here and help someone by the name of Izuku Midoriya. He turned to look at the young teen that was there with them. He didn't look like much with the showing of only bones, and looked as if he started to gain some muscle and height recently. Started to work out at the start of the month, huh? He thought as he looked him once over. He noticed that the beach was a dump, but a part of it was starting to get clean. So they are having him clean the beach as a part of his training. He nodded his head as he looked over the place, not bad. Hello. He was brought out of his musing when he heard the enthusiastic of the teen calling out to him. Good morning, my name is Izuku Midoriya. Hikari smiled at the teen. Well, at least someone has manners. Hikari said as he smiled down at the teen with his comment, bringing others out of the silence. Oh yes, sorry. Toshinori spoke as he shakes his head and finally looked at the teen young man. Once over, my name is Yagi Toshinori. I am All Might's personal secretary. To his surprise, he did not get the reaction that he usually gets. He noticed that the man was not as excited as some of the other people get when they learn where he works or what kind of work he does. This guy didn't show any of these reaction, and I am currently helping young Midoriya here in his training. He then turned towards the man with the headband. This here is the pro hero, Death Arms. He then turned to point at the woman with blonde hair, and this is another pro, Mount Lady. Both greeted the new person that had came to help them. Good morning. Mount Lady greeted Hikari as she fidgeted in her place while she looked at the man, blushed, and turned to look at the ground. And listen, so sorry about, before, you know where you compared me to a combination of two old men that peeps on woman and write perverted novels after peeping on them. Hikari spoke up with a smile. Don't worry about it. I can see that you are tired. Just remember not to say something like this in front of anyone else. I didn't mind because I found your imagination hilarious. But don't do it for anybody else. The last part was spoken with seriousness. Sorry, Mount Lady replied in embarrassment. Don't worry about it. He responded with a smile. He then turned to look back at Izuku. So Recovery Girl said that your quirk was quite similar to mine. Is that right? He asked the teen. Yeah, Izuku said as he nodded his head. She said you had chakra too. He nearly jumped in excitement. Finally, someone was there who could teach him more about his quirk. Whoa, hold on to your horses. Hikari said as he brought his hands up, calming the kid. If you remember correctly, I said similar, kid. He said as all of them turned to look at him. I don't have chakra or whatever that is that you have as quirk. Then what is your quirk? Izuku asks in confusion. Well, I would tell all of you that. Hikari said as he turned to look at all of them, then back at teen as he plopped down on the sand surrounded by the dump. But first give me brief rundown of your quirk for me. He told Izuku as others also sat down. Well, Izuku said chakra, my quirk, is a life source energy which is a combination of spiritual energy, that is the energy of the soul, and physical energy. He then looked at the man that was supposed to help him in learning about his quirk, who was looking at him expectantly. They all remained silent for a few moments with Izuku and Hikari looking at each other, and the smile that was on his face slipped. Is that it? Hikari asks. Izuku mumbled and nodded his head. Do you know how to activate your quirk Onwo? Hikari asks the teen, and the teen shook his head in negative. Well, ain't that just lovely? Hikari mumbled under his breath and looked up as he noticed that others were looking at him. Okay, so your quirk is a life energy quirk. You might know that much, right? Others nodded their heads at that. Well, and you told me that your quirk is the combination of spiritual energy and physical energy. Am I correct? Yep, Mount Lady said with a pop in the P. All right, I can help with your quirk. This got him smiles from the others. But let me tell you, it's going to be difficult, and you might have to add few more things in your schedule, which is also going to include hand-to-hand combat. You must be ready and extremely dedicated for it. These trainings methods are going to be tough, and you must do everything that I am going to tell you. Are you ready for that? Izuku looked at the serious expression that was on his face. He gulped, knowing that his life and schedule is going to be tough from now, but he steeled his expression with determination. Yes, he replied determinedly. Good. Hikari said with a smile that sat again in cross-legged position. Now if I remember, you asked me what my quirk is, am I right? Others nodded their head at that and got a little closer to him. Well, let me just tell you a bit about the quirks under which our quirks come. He said as Mount Lady groaned. Yes, I know that you might have heard before, but every quirk differs from the other, even if they are quite similar. In this case, it would be mine's and Izuku's quirk. He said as Izuku's attention was solely on him. As Recovery Girl might have told you that our quirk comes under Life Energy Quirk, which is already under the category of Energy Quirk, okay. So in our cases, the energy is the sole thing that we as humans need to survive. So in essence, everyone has these energies. This got him wide eyes from the others. So you mean to tell us that all of us could use your types of quirks? Death Arms asks Hikari, who in turn snorted. As if. He stated, and then went on with his explanation, everyone has them, but no, they can't use them. Reason, because it ain't their quirk. He paused as others nodded at that. Now, everyone has these kind of energy because they need it for survival. In our cases, things get different. They became our quirk, and funny thing is that the quirk gets activated the moment of birth. Now, the previous wide eyes were nothing in comparison to what happened to their eyeballs now. Yes, these quirks activates at birth, but on smaller scale, not like the glowing child in China. Can you believe for few years they considered people with quirks a deity? That one child was a lucky brat. So yeah, it activates at birth, but on lower scale. And gradually it started to become visible later on. Sometimes it would be subtle, sometimes not so much. You might not know, but your quirks sometimes work unconsciously. Like you might heal quicker than others, or sometimes you were able to perform better than others in physical area. Because you were desperate. You may call it adrenaline, but your quirk had a part in it. Now to actually be able to use these quirks you have to train, and by training I don't mean what you are doing. By training I mean martial arts discipline, meditation, those types of things. Hikari then paused as he turns to look at the people who were looking at him as they tried to grasp what he was talking about. Alright then, now let me tell you about my quirk. Hikari then cupped his hands as a glowing ball of energy appeared in his hand, and others, especially Izuku and Mount Lady, were fascinated by the little ball. Whoa! Both Mount Lady and Izuku muttered in awe of the ball. Fascinating, Hikari said to the surprise of the four. This is my quirk. Key or official name that you can use for it are energy, latent energy, or life force. He then pushed the ball further from his hands, and others watched the ball move forward and stop in the little circle that the group had created. It's energy that resides in the body. To get mastery over it, I have to get discipline. And not talking about the one in military, more like martial arts master kind. He paused as he moved his hands, aching the energy ball move along his hand gestures as it moves around Izuku and Death Arms and settles on Mount Lady's head, making her giggle. I basically have control of what I want my energy to do. I can increase my speed, can push it outside of my body like that little ball, make my body more durable, feel the energy of other beings around me, and also to do this. And with that he suddenly began floating up in the air, surprising others. What? Came four distinct voices. Yeah, and this ain't the best part. With that he brought the ball light back in his hands. I can use this ball of energy as long-range attacks. Now this baffled the others. Don't believe me? Well, let me prove it to you, he said as he looked around and saw his target, a refrigerator that was stopping the view of the sea from where they were. See that fridge? Pay close attention. And with that the small ball of light whizzed past them and struck the fridge, and the result? Well, the fridge was no more, and so was some of the things that were lying with it. The dump and the surrounding that didn't got stuck with the ball flew around aimlessly, and the people that were there, well, all of them surprised, and by all of them I mean all of them. Even the person that had threw the ball of light. Oops, Hikari said as he looked on at the remains of the sand as the sea was now clearly visible for them. All of them turned to look back at the young man who was looking at the scene with surprise, and that baffled them more than ever. Oops. Mount Lady started. What do you mean by oops? Yeah, I accidentally poured more power into that than I thought. Hikari answered. You mean to tell me that little could have taken my head off? She screamed in indignation. Well, actually no. Hikari answered. The only way it could have exploded if I willed it to, or another energy striking it, which is not possible. So you were safe. Mount Lady still didn't let the frown off her face. Don't worry. And then turned to look at the teen who was gaping at the place where the fridge once stood. Well, those are things that I can do currently, and there are more that I've yet to unravel. And from what you have told me, your quirk could do something like this too. You mean, I can make energy blasts same as you? Izuku said in amazement. Well, not same as me, Hikari said, but very close. But first we need to will your chakra out. So how are we going to do that? Izuku asks in excitement. Yes, before we do that, tell me your normal training regime. Hikari told him. Well, normally, I clean this beach for 2 hours before doing normal workout, and then I go to school. After school I do other workout stuff, like a 5-mile run, 50 push-ups, 50 squats, 50 pull-ups and other things. Izuku told his new teacher. On weekends, I clean this beach for 2 hours more than my normal weekdays and normal workout. Hikari nodded his head at that, then turned to look at his surrounding. He looked around for a few more moments, and then turned to look at the teen. Okay, Then I want you to do your normal stuff. When you are cleaning the beach, after you've done it, we will work on activating your quirk on will. Hikari said as he looked at the teen. Is that understood? Wait. Izuku tells out, why can't we do it now? He asks with Death Arms and Mount Lady, nodding their head. Oh, believe me. Hikari said as he looked at the teen, you will prefer that we are going to do it later, that right now. He then waited for a few moments as Izuku stayed at his place, not moving. What are you waiting for? Get on it. With that, Izuku took off and started working towards cleaning this place. 3 hours later. It had been 3 hours since Izuku had started cleaning the beach. Izuku had been quiet, diligent in cleaning the beach. Hikari noticed that. He then turned to look at the only other person that was there, the lanky form of Yagi Tashinori, or also known as All Might. He had asked of both Death Arms and Mount Lady to bring few things here, and if he was right, it would take some time before they will reach here. He noted that they were currently out of the hearing range from Izuku. Perfect place to talk to the lanky form of All Might. Yeah, right people? Hikari thought, and then grimaced, need to spend some time away from them. Hikari then turned to look at the true form of number 1 hero. So he is your successor, HNN? He asked the hero, who looked surprised, and then turned to look at him and narrowed his eyes. I don't know what you are talking about. Yagi stated as he looked at the man. Oh, save me, I am All Might's personal secretary, and I can ask him for an autograph for you, Yagi Tashinori. Hikari said as he looked back to where Izuku was cleaning the beach. I know all about your quirk, one for all, and your nemesis, all for one. Lame name, by the way. He failed to notice that All Might's fist tightened as small arcs of electricity began to fly. Oh, by the way, you don't want to do that right now. There are a lot of people around here right now. And he was right. Surrounding them, many people were going on about their day, while some were turning to look at the small teen trying to clean the beach. He was at a disadvantage. He could not transform here without his secret leaking to the public. In the end, he took a deep breath and turned to look at the young man with a piercing glare. How do you know? He questioned with authority behind the small frame. But to his annoyance, the man just smirked. Wouldn't you like to know? I am quite serious about this, young Murasum. All Might said as the glare intensifies. How? Did you? No. The man on the other hand still smirked. You haven't said the magic word. Hikari taunted the small form, knowing that he was playing with fire. Are you serious right now? Yagi nearly yelled at the smirk that was on the face of the youth. It still isn't the magic word I am looking for. He shot back with a smirk. Seeing that he was not getting anywhere, Yagi relented. All right then. He mumbled under his breath and then looked at Hikari with a soul-piercing glare. Please, Hikari, tell me, how do you found about my quirk? By the end of the question, Hikari had a giant smile plastered over his face, and Yagi looked like he was losing everything right now. Now is that so difficult? He said, totally missing the fact that All Might was trembling with rage. Hikari then picked up his satchel that he came with and brought a small diary out of it. What is that? Yagi growled as he noted that he brought out an old beat-up diary from his bag. You asked me how I knew? Well, here's the reason. Hikari said as he put the bag down and held the diary firmly in his hand. First and foremost, if you remember, I said that I am able to sense energy of different people, and number 2 people have same energy until or unless they are related to each other. He said as All Might's small form eyes widened as he remembered the young man telling them about it. And also, Hikari said as he looked at the diary in his hands and turned and handed it to Yagi. I think this belongs to you now. Yagi looked at the man in confusion and then at the diary. He looked at the backside of the diary and then decided to flip it over. He read the name on the diary and dropped it down as he read it, and turned to look at the youth with livid eyes. How? He growled, releasing a bit of his power. Me and one of my friends were going through some dump few months back for something that my friend's daughter dropped it there. Hikari said as he kept his gaze at the teen who was cleaning the beach. I came across it accidentally, and I recognized the name. I decided to look for familial relation, but found out that the family died in an accident with no survivors. When I found none, curiosity got better of me, and I decided to read the journal to find out someone, most likely next of kin. Imagine my surprise about what I found there. All Might remained calm, but didn't remove the hostility that was in the eyes. Does someone know? He asked in a whisper. Well, no. Hikari answered truthfully, and I didn't tell anyone else because it wasn't my secret to be told. At the curious glance that he got from, he decided to explain himself. I know a thing or two about secrets and how important they can be, So don't worry, I won't be telling anyone about it anytime soon. He reassures him. Yagi Tashinori looked at the teen. To him, he was an enigma and an unknown variable that knew of his secret. But even he can't leave the gratitude that he was feeling for the journal that was provided to him by Hikari. He then picked up the journal and turned it over so he could read the name again. Nana Shimura. Yagi kept on staring at the journal for a few more minutes. Hey, Mount Lady called out to the two people that were watching over Izuku. She was carrying lots of bags along with Death Arms, who along with her were carrying those bags. Want to tell us why did you ask us bring these things? She asks as she came close to where they were standing as Yagi closed the journal as they approached. You will see, Hikari said as he then went down to where Izuku was working on cleaning the beach, as others began to follow him. Why, kid? Hikari called out to the teen as said teen turns to look at him while carrying a TV. Put that thing with the others and come here. He told the teen, who nodded his head and hurried up to put down the TV he was holding on to. Once he put the dump in its place, he quickly came back to the new teacher awaiting his order. He was surprised when said teacher handed him a bottled juice. Drink it, Hikari told him, and take a breath. We are soon going to have you activate your quirk at will. Izuku widened his eyes as he decided to quickly chug the drink down. Boy, have patience. We are not going to do it not until you are properly rested. Huh, but why? Because you will be expelling a lot of energy when we get to it. And if you are tired, there are chances that you will knock yourself out before you even come close to activate it. Oh, okay then, Izuku said as he finished his drink and decided to lay on the sand. How are you sure that he will knock himself out? All Might spoke up in confusion. It's because he has never used it or activated it on will. Hikari told others, whenever someone activates their quirk, especially a quirk like ours, we would sometimes knock ourselves out because we would release energy even if we don't want to. So we need to work on it so that he doesn't waste his energy. But it would happen the first time he wants it or not. He finishes as others understood what he was telling them. So I need to rest? Yes, Hikari told him as they fell into silence, nobody saying anything, just enjoying the peace that was in that moment. After a few moments, when Hikari was sure that he was rested well enough, he stood up. I think that much is enough for now, Hikari said as he stood up and turned to look at Izuku. All right, Izuku, stand up. Izuku followed his command and stood up. I want you to take a seat at that place. He pointed towards an open area away from the road and meditate. Wait, what? Izuku tells as he looks at Hikari, other doing the same thing. Yes, what? Mount Lady was the next to yell it out. What do you mean by meditate? Hikari looks at them while tilting his head in confusion. Exactly what I mean. Hikari told others. I told him to meditate. Yes, but why? Death Arms asks. Because that is how he going to activate his quirk. Hikari said as it was the most obvious thing in the world. Yes, but how? Izuku asks again as Hikari understood that he needs to explain it properly to the teen. Okay, listen carefully, Hikari said as Izuku gave him his attention. You are going to sit there and concentrate. You are going to concentrate on the energy that is inside you. For that you need to find your center. It's that energy that you are going to find and pull out. And to do that you need to meditate. So I need to meditate to find that pull? Izuku asks again. Yes, Hikari said, now hop on it. Izuku decided to give him a benefit of doubt. He decided to sit at the place where he was pointing at. After meditating for a few more moments, he noticed that he was not getting any kind of energy or whatever he was talking about. You are way too tense, kid. You need to relax. He heard the voice of his new teacher. Relax yourself. Keep calm mind. Otherwise you won't be able to. And he decided to heed the command. He took a deep breath and relaxed himself and started searching for his center. After a few more minutes, he felt a blue, swirling vortex of energy that was near his stomach. What is that? Izuku thought. And then he remembered Hikari's word. You need to pull out your energy. And he did just that as the energy became surging through him. Now this is interesting. He heard Hikari's voice again. What is? It was Mount Lady that spoke up this time. I didn't know anybody could find their center that quick. What are they talking about? Izuku thought again. Unknown to him on the outside, he was surrounded by a blue glow in the shape of flame. Dogba Municipal Beach Park. Izuku didn't know, but to Hikari and the others his chakra was flaring outside of his body. It had taken a form of blue flame-like aura that was now surrounding his body. All right then, Hikari said as he looked at the scene, I think you've reached your center and the energy that we were looking for. It's enough for now, you can now stop. But he didn't. If he was unable to him, or the others was totally another thing. He is letting all of his energy out. Hikari thought as the flame-like aura became big. At this rate, he will burn himself out and won't be able to work on it for a long while. He then noticed something else. The flame-like aura turned red for a moment. Kid, it's enough for now. Hikari spoke in a commanding tone. Stop before you unalive yourself, accidentally. Others turned to look at him at his proclamation. What he would unalive himself if he keeps on letting out all of that energy. But then something else happened to Hikari's surprise. The red aura that he saw flickered a few times again. And then out of nowhere, a large wave of energy crashed into the people, pushing those who were ready for it back. But those that weren't, they fell on their butt, and feeling of dread washed over the people in the surrounding. Even the passerby on the road were affected by it. Hikari looked on in surprise at the sudden wave, especially about how it was formed. What was that? Hikari exclaimed in his mind. He looked at the kid. It was a powerful wave. It came from the kid, but Hikari looked at the kid again. It was as if the energy belonged to someone else entirely. How is that possible? He turned to look at the others that were there. They don't look that much surprised about the secondary energy. I wonder why. He seriously needs to put lid on the other guy? He heard Mount Lady say as she picked herself up and dusted herself. Other guy? He spoke up in confusion. Yeah, Mount Lady started. He hears this giant voice in his head, who told him what his quirk was, before we found out more from you. He has a split personality disorder? Hikari asks in surprise, why didn't you tell me? Well, not a split personality per se, Yagi said as he tried to explain. The other guy is actually the manifestation of chakra, if what was told by him was correct. Just wait a moment. Hikari said as he brought. He had chakra, which is the combination of physical and spiritual energy, right? Yagi nodded his head. And he also has a being who is made up of said energy inside of him? He asked again, and the others nodded. How is that possible? We don't know. Yagi stated after a moment, and considering that we don't know much about these kind of quirks, we were hoping that you might be able to tell us. Great, more work. Hikari mumbled under his breath as he turned to look at the kid who was still in the midst of the flaming red aura. He needs to stop soon, he said to the others with steely eyes. If not, then I am going to stop him. Death Arms turned to look at him. And how are you going? His question was cut short when Hikari vanished from their sights to the surprise of others and appeared behind the kid that was surrounded by the flaming red aura. He didn't get to finish this sentence either as they saw the new guy punch Izuku in the head. And suddenly the aura began to subside, and so does the dreaded feeling, but Izuku on the other hand fell on the ground in a crumpled heap with Hikari standing tall over him with his hand outstretched. The others on the other hand were livid. They just saw the man who was supposed to help them knock the kid out. Hey! Yagi yelled as he looked at Hikari. What the hell was that for? Who the hell was he, knocking a kid like that? Oh, shut up. Hikari said as he rubbed his hands. I did you guys a favor, and also so that the kid don't die? What do you mean? Death Arms stepped forward, a bit of apprehension in his step. The kid was releasing all of his energy. Hikari said as he moved to pick up some of the bags that were brought by Death Arms and Mount Lady that had fallen over. And as I and Recovery Girl have told you before, he checked inside the bag as if looking for something. Once we use all of our energy, we not only put our life, but sometimes the life of others at risk. In this scenario, he dropped the bag not finding what he wanted and then moved to the other. He would have died if I didn't knock him out. He searched through the bag again and brought a bottle. In other words, I just saved his life. He started walking towards the knocked out teen. Couldn't there have been another way? Yagi asks again. I can think of few other ways, like calling out to him. It wouldn't have. Hikari said while shaking his head as he turned to look at the shrunken form of All Might. I know knocking out a kid is not a good thing, but I just saved his life. Even Recovery wouldn't have been able to save him if he would have let out all of his energy. Also about calling out to him. He stopped in front of the teen. He was released his own energy at an exceptional rate and was in a state where he can't hear of you, and then he wasted the energy of another being. Do you even know the effect of the other energy that occurs on his body? He was twisting the cap of the bottle as others shook their heads in negative. Yes, and that effect might have given him a boost, but could also be dangerous to him and his mind. And as such, we can't have him use that energy freely. He needs to use it as a last resort. Moreover, he doesn't have any sort of control over his own energy, so you can't expect him to get a control over that energy. As all of them had a conversation over the knocked out body, there was another conversation that was taking in the head of the teen. Unknown location. Izuku opens his eyes. He was in dark place, he noticed. It was like a basement, like a dark, dingy basement of a dungeon. He looked around and he noticed that it was like a basement, but not a basement of the metal barred door was anything to go by. No, this is a cellar prison. Izuku noticed as he stood up and noticed a long corridor laced with lights. Different types of lights. It was colored blue and red. And lights they were going down the corridor. He heard the sound of snore and moving coming down from the corridor. Izuku took a big gulp as he started to move towards the end of the corridor. Doesn't horror movies have this kind of premises? He thought while moving down the corridor. After moving for a while, he came to an end where there was a giant prison metal bar door. And the lights ended there too. Inside that cellar there was no light, just darkness. There was an infinite amount of darkness inside the cellar room. He tried to look, but the dark was prominent. He decided to look clearly inside it and squinted his eye to make sure nothing was in it. As squinted his eyes, he noticed a large silhouette lying on the ground inside the cellar. He tried to make out what was it, but he couldn't. As he squinted some more, the large red slitted eye opened up. The sudden appearance of the eye made him yelp and stumble back, making him fall on the fall. When he fell down, he noticed another thing. The floor was wet. There was no water, but there was dampness in the floor. Well. The voice that Izuku heard a few times growled out again in a mocking voice. What a surprise. Izuku stumbled back as the silhouette stood up. He was able to make out the outlines, but the figure still didn't come out of the darkness. You actually managed to activate your chakra. Color me impressed. Runt. The last part was said with disgust. Izuku then felt as if he was being looked over by the figure in the darkness. And you started training too. At least you know you can't be one of those clowns without training. Now Izuku was indignant as his face drew in a frown. How dare a being who is basically hiding right now criticize the pro hero? Because I can. And that's exactly what I mean by them being a clown. These dresses are highly impractical and does nothing more than make their butts and other part out more. How does he know what I was thinking? Izuku thought out in surprise. And on that note, where the heck am I? I know what you were thinking is because we share the same head space, you mongrel. And you are yelling out your thoughts, so they are not that hard to pick. He had a feeling that the figure just shrugged in indifference. To answer your second question, this is your mindscape. Izuku looked at the figure as if he were an alien being, which considering the situation, he actually was. This. Izuku started and pointed the place from which he came from is my mindscape? Like the place in my head? Yes. The silhouette stated. And Izuku looked around again, making sure if what he was seeing was right. Why does my mindscape looks like a prison? Izuku asks the giant figure. The mindscape is a tricky place. The giant figure spoke. It is the manifestation of what you basically think of yourself, and not only that, but how you see your life. So I think of my life as a prison? He asks again. I do not care why your mind look like this. The voice growled again as the silhouette laid back down again. You have achieved the given challenge I laid down for you. And as such I have to give you an exercise and advise for you. Wait, what? Izuku asks in confusion. Don't make me repeat, Runt. The voice growled out again. I am telling you a way to better yourself. Do not take these teachings and me for granted, or else it will not be good. Understood. Izuku hurriedly nodded his head. Good. Now I see that you now have a teacher who has a quirk that is very similar to yours. Izuku nodded his head again. At least. Now you can do things. Learn from him. Izuku then shakily raised his hand to ask a question. Mr. Voice. He then felt the piercing red eyes turn to glare at him, and he trembled in his place. Will you teach me more of these techniques in the future? No, I won't. The voice growled out. Not for free. Tell you what. You entertain me, complete few more challenges, and as such I will teach you other techniques. Understood. Izuku wanted to argue, but he could felt that he was actually getting a better deal out of this, so he reluctantly nodded his head. Very well then. What I am telling you is called leaf exercise. You take a leaf, and then you use a chakra to make it stick to your forehead. For this you have to direct your chakra to the leaf. And how will I do that? Izuku asks in confusion. And the red piercing eyes looked at him in incredulity. Great, you are both smart and dumb. The voice said, and before he could yell it out in annoyance, the voice interrupted, ask your new teacher, he will help. On that note, use hand seals to help you concentrate your chakra. The eyes then closed themselves, and the figure laid on the ground. Now get out of here, I need my sleep. Hey, wait a minute. Izuku started as he started to move towards the figure. I have so many questions regarding my quirk and why you are here, and what else it could do. I need some answers, but before he could say anything, a large burst of energy came from the cellar and pushed Izuku back. As he was pushed back, Izuku felt something cold hitting his face. His face felt cold and wet. Why was his face feeling wet? Why does it feel like I am having water in my nose and mouth? Izuku the jerked up sitting as he threw up the water, and with that the bottle that was being forced down his throat. He began coughing as he threw the water out of his throat. What cough, Gao? What was that cough? Izuku yelled as he kept on coughing. Don't worry, Sleeping Beauty. He heard the voice of Hikari from above him. It was to wake you up. He then heard a thud in front of him as he rubbed his eyes to see the clear picture of his new teacher now sitting in front of him. You and I, on the other hand, have a lot to discuss. Yes, before that I need to tell you guys. Izuku started as Yagi nodded his head for him to go on. You know the other guy in my head. The voice that whenever I hear, I get a huge boost. Yes, I was going to discuss about that too. Hikari chimed in, but I am curious to see what you have to discuss. Izuku nodded his head as he went on to discuss what he has learned and about the voice that was inside his again. After being explained what has been happening, Hikari put a hand under his chin and hummed. Mount Lady and Death looked in between the two figure who now had the most weirdest of quirks that they have seen in their lives. So the voice that you heard is a giant being made of chakra, which is your quirk. Hikari said as Izuku nodded. And he said that if you entertain him and complete his challenges, then he will tell you more about the techniques and chakra? Izuku nodded. Alright, cool, but I don't want you to use the secondary energy. What? Izuku yelled out in shock. But why? Well, for one, you aren't ready, plain and simple. To this, everybody in the group nodded. Even the voice in your head will agree to it. Second, it is a secondary energy, which I might add is not even yours. Yes, it is in your body, but the energy itself has sentience, which raises few more questions, and we don't even know the type of effect it could have on your body. Third, as I said, it is a secondary energy source, and you, my friend, haven't even learned how to control your own. Do you really think you could do it too? Izuku was about to speak up, but Hikari didn't let him. Let me tell ya, it won't happen, and fourth, I am your teacher as of now. So you will do as I say. You can use the secondary source in emergency, like in life-threatening situations, but outside of these situations, never use it. Okay. Izuku slowly nodded his head, seeing the point. Alright then, eat up the food. He then brought up the edibles that he had asked for Mount Lady and Death Arms to be brought. Why no, I can't do that. Izuku yelled out. Mr. Yagi gave me diet plan which I have to follow. The plan might have worked before if you didn't release that much energy in one go. Your body is going to need it, so eat and don't ask. Izuku was about to object when the smells of sandwich went to his nose and his stomach growled loudly in anticipation. He blushed at the sudden sound as Mount Lady and Death Arms looked at the loud voice in astonishment, whereas Yagi and Hikari grinned at him. As I said, don't bother arguing. Hikari shoved a sandwich in his hand. This is the first time, and your appetite is only going to increase with your energy and training. Wait, so does that mean I have to make a diet plan for him again? Yagi asked while turning to him. Yeah, Hikari said as he chewed down a sandwich. That's one of the things you get with our quirks when they start to develop and be used like his. It will increase your appetite, and because of the energy training we could use it in a way so that it can also burn our calories faster, making our metabolism much faster. Cool, Izuku said as he looked at his new teacher. So when will I learn more about it? When you tell me that you have learned it to activate on will, was the answer he got. Also tell me, are you ready to train with everything you have got? Hikari asks him once again in a serious tone, and Izuku, hearing the question, nodded his head in agreement. Alright then. Hikari then turned toward his satchel that he bought with him. I brought few things just in case, and I think I was right in bringing them with me. He brought 4 different bands from his bag. Right now, you are only getting this, but once we decided the fighting style that you are going to learn, then I am give you a whole another set. Izuku looked at the bands in confusion. What are those? He asked his new teacher. These are training weights. Hikari said with a giant grin, and you are going to wear it every second of your life. You can remove it while you are sleeping or while showering, but the whole day you are going to wear it. Izuku stood up to accept the gift, and as Hikari dropped the weights in his hands, his whole body went down along with the weights. And they are quite heavy, so be careful with it. I noticed. Izuku muttered from the sand. Now activate chakra. Hikari commanded and waited. Izuku looked at him as others also stared at him expectantly. Please, we don't have all the time. Release your energy. Yes. Izuku started let me, just there was still nothing happening as Hikari rubbed his face. In this scene, Izuku remembered something that he was told when he went with All Might for the quirk test, and he decided to follow that instructions. In result, he looked constipated, as if he was holding his own and not letting it go. Hikari noticed it too. What are you doing? He asked the teen. Mr. Yagi told me that All Might activates his quirk this way. He got a face that asks what way. He said whenever he activates his quirk, one must clench his, but hard, and yell out smash. Izuku answers for him as Yagi looked at him with proud expression, and Hikari looked at the shrunken form of All Might in exasperation. Well, kid, don't do that. Hikari spoke up, and Izuku was ready to protect the instructions of his idol. When he continued, and here I was hoping you were some kind of prodigy in regarding these kind of things. Your quirk is different from All Might's quirk, which makes it that activating it very different from his quirk, and considering that how our quirks work, you need to concentrate while you are trying to activate it. You did it once, that means it will become easier the second time, but it all depends on your concentration. You mess up that you will lose the control over your quirk, understand? Izuku nodded at the end of his explanation. Alright. Now I want you to go along with your normal schedule, just don't overdo it while wearing the weights, alright? I want you here tomorrow at the exact same time, and after that we will look for what kind of combat training you are going to learn. Okay, you can take the rest of the day off. Wait, I'm not going to do anything for today anymore. Izuku asks, and others look at him for the same thing. No, you got hold of your energy for the first time, and your body needs some time to adjust to your body expelling the energy out. So for today, rest. From tomorrow, your real training starts, and considering tomorrow is Sunday, I am going to prepare another schedule for you with Mr. Yagi here. He then turned to look at the shrunken form of All Might as he stood up. Is that all right with you, Mr. Yagi? He asks. Mr. Yagi nodded his head in confirmation. With that, Hikari bid the four farewell, as others looked at his back as moved away. What, you heard the guy? Death Arms said as they turned to look at the teen. Better prepare yourself, kid. And he did wonder what kind of training he was going to go through with his new teacher. So, this was the end of part 2 of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.